because we are strongly pro-woman, pro-policy, pro-strong voice for women in all aspects of our lives, where we need to advocate for equality, justice, and making sure that everyone all women in Westchester can thrive. I want to speak just briefly about our Juneteenth programs of the past. We started this series in 2022 when Juneteenth was declared a national holiday with the program that was called Where Do We Go From Here? Really examining how this holiday is so important in so many ways. We had a legislative view of it, and that's based on the reality of the history that enslavement was legal. And then many policies that have been made into law actually have grown from that over the years. And the recognition of Juneteenth means that we have to grapple with our past and recognize the reality. So come what may, in our national culture, we will be dealing with the true history of our county, Westchester, New York State, and America continuously, because that's what the Westchester Women's Agenda does. In 2023, we talked about the case for repair, which looked at public art, funding your tax dollars going for public art, and how we need more women, Black women, in the public sphere for visibility so that children can learn their history. 2024, we spoke about the road to repair and talked about land use and how quote-unquote zoning can have a huge impact on building generational wealth. And this year, we're going to talk further about the history of enslavement in the U.S. and how you can have slavery by another name. So we call this a legislative event because policy can really be what can take us backwards or take us forwards to a truly equal Westchester. So that's the roots of our event. We thank you for being here with us today. And let's get going with the program. I'll introduce somebody who probably doesn't really need an introduction, our County Executive, Ken Jenkins.
Well, first, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, so it is always good to be home here in Yonkers for me, and when I say, unfortunately, I didn't start here. I was actually in Greenberg, and then came back. I know I'm curated today, Tasha Young, and certainly Lisa Marie Nero. We're giving a shout out there, but the reality is that it's so great to have the Westchester Women's Agenda continuing its legislative directive as far as talking about diversity, equity, inclusion in this Juneteenth program today. And you're going to hear from this powerful panel that continues to make sure that we're going to navigate together through all of these partnerships. And the Westchester Women's Agenda's voice is always helpful for all of us to help to guide and to direct the things and policies, programs, and dollars that we do. And we know in this particular time it's super challenging for all of us to navigate through this. But the only way we're going to do this is by making sure that we're telling unvarnished history, and then we have to deal with that history and make the addresses and corrections that are necessary. And because the work that Westchester Women's Agenda does and all of your organizations do, we're going to be able to make that difference. So I'm happy to be here for a second before I move to the next thing. But the reality is, being here in Phillips Manor Hall is very important. And again, we got to give shout outs to our state in New York State, Governor Hochul, that so traditional flowers that we're here. Commission of Parks, but more importantly, to continue to understand that history is all around us here in Westchester County. And one of the privileges I have to do is by going around the county, we get to see so many different things. I thought I just saw a glimpse of a legislator a second ago, right? I thought I saw Nancy Guar's head just a second ago, but I also saw Sinead Williams, my legislator, walking out, and I'm sure she'll be back in a moment. But again, thank you all for being here. I know it's going to be a fantastic program, but the reality is that Westchester Women's Agenda continues to make sure that we are aware and making modifications to make Westchester better. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that so much. We actually have, first start, you need to catch Ken before he goes for one more opportunity. So today, in terms of electeds in the room, I'm sorry if we haven't recognized you. We know that some of our Board of Legislators from the county are here, and local officials as well. You'll be hearing from our panelists, Honorable Lisa Nero from Greenberg. But we've also had the privilege of having the governor send her representative, who's Emily Kadar, and she has come with a proclamation regarding Juneteenth, and I'd like to have Emily come up, and then also the person who pulled this event together, who we have to give a round of applause right now, is Tasha Young. Program and has done so for 4 years, and I have to say, she's a graphic designer that made this entire booklet that you guys are enjoying to see our program. So she's a woman of many talents, and Emily will present the proclamation. And then come on, Mike.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you to everyone here at the event. Thank you to the county executive, as always, for everything that he does for Westchester and for communities, frankly, across our state. I'm Emily Kadar. I'm here to represent Governor Hochul. She sends her warmest regards at this event, and I'm so excited to hear from this important panel, especially in the context of the work that's happening in New York right now. I'm sure most of the folks in the room are aware that in December 2023, the governor signed legislation that created a New York State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies. I was very afraid of getting the full order wrong. But I really encourage all of you, if you look that up, the website there is really fantastic. It has a full description of the work ahead, but also a meeting schedule. There are public meetings happening around the state with experts and also feedback from community. And so I really encourage everyone to participate in that process. This is a really important reckoning that New York is doing with our legacy of slavery and what that means. I think we are really coming to grips with that history and the impacts that have lasted to this day. And so I encourage you all to get involved in that work, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it from this wonderful panel. But the reason I'm up here and the reason that I dragged Tasha to hang out next to me is the governor has sent a proclamation, and so it's very long. I promise I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will read the first and last paragraphs and then present it to you all in honor of the important work that you're doing here today. So, whereas New York State commemorates the 160th anniversary of Juneteenth, which symbolizes our nation's second Independence Day, when the last of enslaved African Americans were freed by executive decree, Juneteenth serves as a historical milestone, reminding Americans of the struggle for justice, freedom, and the triumph of the human spirit over the inhumane legacy of slavery in the United States. Whereas all of America observes Juneteenth, which was designated a federal holiday when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law on June 17, 2021, as a champion of freedom and a leader in civil, social, and human rights, New Yorkers join in shared spirit to mark this important observance and honor its significance as we express respect for African American communities through ceremonies celebrating the Freedom Day and all New Yorkers embrace and cherish. Now therefore, Governor Kathy Hochul, Governor of the State of New York, hereby proclaims June 19, 2025 as Juneteenth. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you for having us here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Overwhelmed with gratitude. My name is Tasha Young. I am a member of the Westchester Women's Agenda Public Policy Committee. I would like to ask that all the Public Policy Committee and Juneteenth Committee members please stand. Thank you all. Thank you all for your sisterhood, for your skill sets, for your prayers and your tolerance, as we plan this event. I also want to recognize Annie Willis, who's the director for New York State Majority Leader on friend to the show and my niece in community. Are there any other elected officials? I don't have my glasses on, please forgive me. Yes, is that Nancy?
I'm here for Assemblymember Burdick. He's not able to come. I'm working with staff. I'm Heather.
Hi Heather, welcome. Any other elected officials, please, or representatives? Okay. So without further ado, I do have an address. Good morning. I serve as the curator for the Juneteenth committee, and I've been researching the intersection of race and gender in American history for some time now. I didn't include my bio, but I am a researcher, scholar, and academic by profession. And my latest work following the November 2024 election has focused particularly on examining the relationship between white women and black women. Since this Juneteenth, we are centering the experiences of black women in our discussion today, but we cannot leave out the relationship that all women had during enslavement and within the colonies. We were all present, there were women there. When we talk about Juneteenth, we're talking about enslavement, specifically the enslavement of African and indigenous people. I'm beginning to understand that many indigenous people were in fact from Africa, thousands of years before these colonies were established. We often look at the indigenous people as separate from black identity, but that's not always the case. So when we think about Juneteenth, we acknowledge the enslavement of indigenous and black people who were kidnapped from Africa, and their relationship to the power structures at that time, which was white and patriarchal. There are many shades of that reality that persist today. I wanted to examine what that relationship looked like in the colonies under enslavement. Specifically, what was the role of women? I'm beginning to understand that it mirrors much more of what we see today. There were extremely wealthy white women who were enslavers, who were a part of the enslaving legacy, but there were also white women who were indentured servants themselves. I really needed to dig deeper into those relationships, and they differed from white women and black women in the South and white women and black women in the North. So I wanted to also, in today's climate, understand why 53% of white women voted for the current president twice. So one of the things that I'm correlating is the view of black women being commodified, being treated as a commodity, and the roots of this that have their foundation in enslavement and how this country was built. Unless I really get a good grasp on that history, and you might be like me, you find it hard to believe that during the suffrage movement, leaders like Sojourner Truth and Ida B. Wells were present in the movement but were ultimately left out. You wouldn't understand unless you look at that, how that happens, unless you understand the systemic diminishment of black women that white women have participated in and insisted on being upheld. So not just for black women, but by extension for all women of color. In my research, I discovered that enslaved women were property, that their rights were not acknowledged, their children were also property and sold at will. So wrapping everything up, we want to look at enslavement, we want to look at enslavement by different names up to present day. This will be a year-long exploration. So we start with, of course, the emancipation in Juneteenth, and then in September we're going to look at Reconstruction and the Black Codes. And then the next installment will be Jim Crow and the Civil Rights Movement, and the last will be the war on drugs and mass incarceration, and that will bring us right back around to Juneteenth of 2026. So we have a lot planned for you. We invite anyone who is here to join WWA. We invite anyone who is here to join the Juneteenth committee as we explore these histories together. One last thing I want to say. If there are feelings or emotions going on, they're all okay. No one, I speak for myself, when I do this research, I do not look at people to say, okay, X, you're this. Because we can all find ourselves in movement. We can all find something that we can do that is authentic to ourselves, that wants to remedy some of this history that we share. So it doesn't have to be that all people fill in the blank are X. That's not what this is about. But what this is about is how do we find ourselves currently. So welcome on this exploration together. So without further ado, I want to move on from me talking about myself and how I come to this work to someone who's very near and dear to me, someone who changed my life, 33, I'm not going to say, but a little while ago in history. And she is my daughter, Yakira Young. I'm so proud of her. She is a professional journalist. Her bio is in her LinkedIn and your program. The programs are QR code scanable, but she will be our moderator for today's panel. We have an exciting panel prepared for you. I'm so very proud of you, my dear.
Welcome to today's Juneteenth panel at the historic Phillips Manor Hall in Yonkers. We gather here today at this former colonial estate to discuss the history of enslavement and the ongoing fight for freedom and reparations. Today is about truth-telling, remembering, and action. Juneteenth is more than just a holiday. It's a reckoning with the reality that freedom in this country has always been delayed, debated, and defended. While emancipation was declared in 1863, freedom did not reach everyone until June 19, 1865, and then still not all equally. And then today, we now face new versions of that delay that I will discuss with the panelists. We'll talk about the modern day pushback, what freedom means now in the face of the political backlash and rising attempts to erase our history. And finally, we'll end with a call to action, both personal and collective, because awareness without action is just observation. So I'd like to get started by welcoming up our panelists to the stage, and they will each introduce themselves before we get into the larger discussion today.